This is a great lesson. This is lesson 247. Oh, and as we are turning to that lesson, let me just say, let's welcome Anna in Colorado and Lisa in Pennsylvania, new subscribers. So good to have you with us tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. This is lesson 247. Without forgiveness, I will still be blind. And what a powerful lesson. I think that probably for most of us, the idea of forgiveness is just a confusing thought. What in the world does that mean? I think we have so many traditional definitions of forgiveness that somebody does something bad to us, and so then we forgive them because we're better than they are, or we're willing to offer some grace to them. And in that case, oftentimes forgiveness is not seen, well, it can be seen like as strength, but it also is many times seen as weakness. And what this is saying is if we do not forgive, then we do not know. Without forgiveness, we're blind. We do not know our reality because the Course defines forgiveness a little differently. Forgiveness allows us to truly see who and what another is doing or are. And it allows us to see who and what we truly are. Because no matter how much we may say, oh, I love myself and I'm, working on myself, we have a lot of judgments about ourselves, don't we? We have, because we know who we are. We think we know who we are. We've grown up with ourselves. We know our motivations. We know the sneaky little things we do. We have a lot of issues about ourselves. And what this is saying is you need to know the truth about you just as much as you need to know the truth about your brother. And if you don't know the truth about you, you cannot know the truth about your brother. And if you don't know the truth about your brother, you can't know the truth about you. This is no different than what Jesus really said. Now, a lot of Christianity, if you will, which is what the Course came along as a correction to, a lot of the mistaken concepts in Christianity, a lot of the very unchristian-like ways of Christianity. That's why it uses so much Christian term. A lot of the words of Jesus are extremely powerful and transformative. Whether you find him in the Bible or whether you find him in A Course in Miracles, they're still very transformative. One of the things that Jesus said when dealing with, because even during the time that Jesus walked the earth, a lot of people were not very nice to each other. Have you noticed that? There's a lot of not nice people hanging around then, just like there's a lot of not nice people still here. We have crazy ego actions taking place. And Jesus, a lot of times it would be the religious people too, who would have judgments against others. And he would say, to those who would say they love God but cannot tolerate or stand another, he would say, how can you say you love God and not love your brother? How can you say you love something you can't see but can't love something you can see? And that's the same thing true for us. And that's really, if you were to summarize this lesson, that's really what it's saying. You cannot know yourself, you cannot know God when you hold a judgment or an attack. And we don't know ourselves. Now look at that first sentence, because this is kind of a good one. It says, sin is the symbol of attack. A lot of times we go, what in the heck does sin mean? It says sin is the symbol of attack. So to sin is really to attack. And from the Course's perspective, it talks about in the book of Genesis, when Adam and Eve sinned against God, right? They thought they could be separate from him. They thought that they could do what they wanted to do. So they, in their minds, from that perspective, attacked. Now, what the Course would say, sin is simply a symbol of something that can really never take place, even though we think it can. We can attack someone, but the Course would say all we can ever do is give an extension of love or a call for love. So right there, from the Course's perspective, it undoes sin by saying you cannot really attack. But we can make up a lot of things that feel to us like attacks from others or attacks from ourselves to others. And what it says is every time we do that, we're simply separating ourselves from our reality, from the truth of what we are. So sin is a symbol of attack, meaning if we're angry, we've separated ourselves from the truth. If we do an outward negative comment to somebody, we've separated ourselves from ourself and the truth. We've separated ourselves from God. If we are depressed, which is not love, but a thought of fear, we've separated ourselves from the truth and from God. So all of these things, when you start looking at this, you go, oh, I do a lot of sinning all day long, right? I do a lot of attacking others, or I do a lot of attacking of myself all day long. That's okay. As I said before, it's good you see it. Because we begin to see what we do. Only when we see it can we see that we want to make a better choice. So if sin is a symbol of attack, every time I attack, I think that I am separate from God. I think I am separate from my brother. Every time I think I'm separate from my brother, by my anger or judgment, I've attacked. So it's good that we see it, right? Sin is simply a symbol of attack. It says, behold it anywhere, and we suffer. It doesn't matter how justified your attack may be and how good you might feel right after you do that one little attack, because sometimes they feel good. That little jab, it's still a symbol of attack, and it separates you off, and it isn't lasting. Because you know what always happens after you do it? You have to convince yourself that what you did was right, right? We're always going, do you agree with me? Did I do that right? Wasn't that, yeah, well, let me tell you what happened. So then you'll understand why I did what I did. We always want to get more people on our side to justify what we've done. But we will suffer. Why will we suffer? You might say, well, I don't know if some people don't even act like they suffer. But what it does is it tells you and reminds you that you are separate. Not only are you separate from each other, but you are separate from God. You cannot know your wholeness. So you will suffer. We will suffer when we attack. So it tells us that how do we get out of this continuous problem? Well, forgiveness is the only means whereby Christ's vision comes to me and kind of lifts me for a moment out of this suffering, out of this terrible cycle, shows me my worth, shows me my brother's worth, and brings me to reality, kind of a wake-up call. When somebody's going crazy, you slap them and you get a wake-up call. So forgiveness comes into our minds to kind of give us this wake-up call, to help us, to wake us up. His vision can show me things that I can't even imagine. His vision can show me clarity I can't even imagine.